I felt the silence like a physical weight on my chest, a crushing stone I'd willingly placed there 7 years ago. It was the price of survival, the only currency I had left. The scent of his expensive, sharp cologne, sandalwood and steel, always hit me first. It was the scent of my husband, Alpha King Darius, and it was the scent of my prison. 7 years. 7 years as the officially recognized queen of the North American Alpha Alliance, and he had never touched me. Not once. I stood in the vast, echoing ballroom, the crystal chandelier overhead casting blinding shards of light across the mahogany floor. I was a ghost in my own life, a trophy wife in a gown of woven shadows. The wolves of the court, all dressed in their finery, moved around me like silent, judging specters. They didn't see me, Audrey, the girl who once laughed freely and dreamed of a true mate bond. They saw the silent queen, the poor, insignificant orphan who was forced upon their great king to secure a peace treaty that had long since been forgotten. Alpha King Darius stood a mere 10 feet from me, a monolith of power and cold indifference. His black tailored suit was a second skin over muscle that looked carved from granite. His eyes, a chilling glacial blue, only ever glanced at me to ensure I was still standing in my designated corner. He saw a mute, unworthy creature. He had always made it clear, without ever needing to speak directly to me, my silence was a sign of my scorn for him, for his pack, for the life he'd bestowed upon me. He thought I was too weak, too simple to be his true Luna. And I let him think it. Better he think me a pathetic fool than discover the secret that my voice held. A power that would lead to my immediate banishment or execution. Tonight, however, felt different. The air was thick, charged with something dark and chaotic. The queen he wanted, Seraphina, his former intended Luna, swept past me. Her smile was a beautiful, razor-sharp weapon, and her deep amber eyes held a triumphant glint. She was the one who controlled the shadows in this castle, the one who truly held the king's ear. She paused, leaning close enough for her sickly sweet perfume to burn my nostrils. "Enjoy your corner, Audrey," she whispered, her voice laced with venom. "Tonight the king will finally choose his real mate. He'll nullify your pathetic paper marriage and you'll be gone by morning. Your silence won't save you this time." The words were a brutal blow, a direct hit to the fragile shield I'd constructed around my heart. I kept my face an impassive mask, the silence an unyielding wall. Don't show fear. Don't show weakness. But inside, the panic was a caged beast clawing its way out. Execution. Banishment. That was the high stake. I had nothing, nowhere to go. The sudden, chaotic shift happened the moment Darius raised a glass to give a toast. He didn't just look cold, he looked wrong. His glacial blue eyes flickered, glazed over, and a low, guttural growl escaped his throat that silenced the entire hall. He slammed the glass down, shattering it. The sound was like a gunshot. He gripped the edge of the table, his knuckles white, his massive body trembling. His breathing was rapid, ragged. It wasn't the look of a king in control. It was the look of a powerful beast losing the fight to a sudden, potent poison. I recognized the signs of the rare, potent fey-root toxin, a drug used to strip a wolf of their control and heighten their most basic, primal instincts, often forcing the mate bond to surface in the most violent way. It was Seraphina. I saw the brief, sickening satisfaction flash across her face before she rushed to his side with a show of false panic. "Pi King. What is it?" she cried, her hand reaching for his arm. But Darius was already beyond reason. The Lycan within him, the ancient dominant part he kept carefully locked away, was violently ripping its way to the surface. He backhanded Seraphina away from him with a snarl that shook the chandeliers. She stumbled back, the beautiful mask of her face finally cracking with real fear. His head swiveled, his eyes now blazing a terrifying gold, scanning the room for a single overwhelming truth: his mate. The drug was overriding his rational mind, stripping away his 7 years of carefully cultivated distance and misconception. It was forcing his Lycan to search for the only thing that could stabilize it, the bond, the other half of its soul. He moved. He didn't move with the king's measured stride. He moved with the raw, terrifying speed of a predator. He bypassed the council, the guards, and the screaming courtiers. He bypassed Seraphina. He bypassed everyone. And he slammed directly into my corner. I gasped, a small, silent, terrified puff of air, as his massive hands locked onto my shoulders. The sheer heat radiating off him was immediate, searing, a terrifying inferno that instantly ignited the cold, dead space between us. His eyes, full of the golden madness of the unbound Lycan, bore down into mine. In the chaos of the room, the shouting, the panic, the sound of crashing glass, I heard a sound that was only for me. It was a fierce, possessive roar of recognition in the deepest, most primal corner of my mind. Whine. He didn't need my voice. He didn't need my approval. The moment his heated hands touched my skin, the years of suppression were ripped away. The dormant, suppressed mate bond that even he had been powerful enough to ignore for 7 years, now, under the influence of the drug, erupted like a supernova. It slammed into me, a tidal wave of pain and exhilarating belonging, a searing energy that connected his primal soul to mine. I felt his mind shove into mine, a desperate, forceful claim. The bond wasn't just physical, it was a sudden, devastating psychic link. And for the first time in 7 long years of calculated silence, the king heard the roaring truth of his queen's soul. Seraphina poisoned you, you magnificent, arrogant fool. I never betrayed you. I never scorned you. I am silent because if I speak they will kill me. The raw, silent scream of my hidden thoughts, my deepest secret, my terror, my innocence, was finally heard. Darius's golden eyes snapped wide. He froze, his primal roar dying in his throat. The gold in his eyes receded an inch, replaced by a devastating flicker of glacial blue sanity, enough to register the impossible truth. The silent queen was not silent. She was hiding a secret that would cost her life. And she was irrevocably his true mate. He did the only thing the terrified, drug-fueled, Lycan-driven king could do. He lifted me, throwing me over his shoulder like a sack of negligible weight, and plunged us both into the heart of the chaos, heading for the shadows, the bond screaming between us. I was no longer the silent queen. I was his. And my secret was now his to protect. Thank you for joining us on the Silent Queen's journey. Comment below and let me know where you are watching from and what the weather is like there today. If you enjoyed this, please be sure to like and subscribe and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss our next interesting story. The world became a violent kaleidoscope of motion, sound, and smell. The scent of panic, the thudding of footsteps, and the enraged, desperate grunts of Darius as he fought his way through his own guards. I was thrown over his shoulder, my face pressed into the expensive hot wool of his jacket, my body completely helpless against his brute strength. He moved with a speed that defied the laws of physics, a blur of enraged, drugged power. The Lycan wasn't simply running, it was claiming. Every stride, every guttural breath he took, sent a pulse of possessive heat through the newly activated mate bond. It was overwhelming, a pure, scorching wildfire igniting a part of my soul I had thought cold and dead. For 7 years I had lived in a carefully constructed emotional fortress and now it was rubble. The irony was a bitter taste in my mouth. It took a poison to break through his cold, deliberate rejection. I could feel the shift as we plunged down a narrow service staircase and through a hidden door that hissed shut with the sound of a closing bank vault. The air instantly became cool, sterile, and still. The sounds of the panicked court were completely muffled, gone. We were sealed away. He dropped me, not carelessly but with a shuddering urgency, onto a narrow cot in what appeared to be a reinforced underground medical bunker. The room was sparse. Stainless steel cabinets, a monitoring screen, and the scent of antiseptic and his own thick primal musk. Darius immediately collapsed, his massive frame convulsing. The drug was doing its work, stripping him of all conscious thought, leaving only the fierce primal need to protect and claim his true mate. But his last act of clarity, fueled by the searing truth he'd heard in my mind, was to secure my safety. I scrambled back against the cold concrete wall, my heart hammering against my ribs, watching him writhe. His eyes were still blazing gold, but now they held a desperate, confused pain, as if 2 minds were fighting a savage battle for control behind them. Stay away. Don't touch me. I need a suppressant. The thoughts weren't a cohesive sentence. They were raw, agonizing fragments of his Lycan's distress, tearing through the fresh bond and into my own mind. I wanted to speak. I wanted to tell him that Seraphina was likely still above, coordinating the search, that we were not safe. I wanted to explain my silence, to confess the hidden power that would condemn me. But the fear, the ingrained terror of years, was a physical throttle on my throat. The secret was the only thing keeping my neck attached to my shoulders. Instead, I had to communicate with the only tool I had left: my mind. I reached out tentatively through the terrifying, beautiful new link. Darius. The antidote. It's in the silver vial in the top left cabinet. I saw your physician preparing it this morning. I focused the thought with every ounce of willpower I possessed, making it clear, urgent, and calm. His thrashing immediately lessened. The Lycan in him, driven by pure instinct, was momentarily subdued by the clarity of his mate's directive. The golden eyes snapped to the cabinet, then back to me, an expression of profound, bewildered wonder flickering across his face. "It can speak." The thought was a low, stunned growl in my soul, laced with 7 years of deep-seated regret and self-loathing. "No, not speak. I can think. I can hear you. All of you. How long have you been hiding this?" There was no time for explanations. The Lycan was winning again. His gaze dropped to my throat, his hands curling into powerful fists. A low, predatory sound escaped him. "Later. Brooke. No. Need you safe. Need you mine." He forced himself up, his movements jerky and agonizing. He stumbled to the cabinet, his senses honed by the drug, and his huge hand clamped around the small silver vial. He ripped the top off with his teeth and swallowed the bitter liquid in one desperate gulp. The effect was instantaneous and brutal. He collapsed back onto the floor, his muscles spasming, a thick, inhuman scream tearing from his throat. The gold in his eyes was violently chased out, replaced by his own familiar, terrifyingly clear glacial blue. The king was back. But he was weak, sweating, and his eyes were full of a dawning, terrible realization. He stared at me, his gaze locked, intense, and utterly devastating. The cold distance was gone, replaced by a hurricane of turbulent emotion, confusion, shame, possessiveness, and a terrifying protective fury. He had spent 7 years believing I was a mute, contemptuous girl who scorned him, and in the span of an hour, a poison-fueled mate bond had exposed that not only was I his true mate, but that my silence was a life-saving disguise. He used his last reserve of strength to crawl the few feet toward me. When he reached my feet, he grasped my ankle, a gentle yet absolute, possessive claim. "Audrey," he rasped, his voice raw, an octave lower than normal. This was the first time in 7 years I'd heard him say my name. It sounded like a prayer and a curse. Tell me everything. No. Use your mind, Queen. Who knows your secret? Who is hunting you? And why have I been such a fool?" The question wasn't just about my silence. It was about the 7 years of rejection, the years of leaving me alone and exposed to predators like Serafina. The full weight of his colossal mistake had crushed him. And for the first time I felt something new for my husband. Not just fear, but a flicker of pity and a deeper, more dangerous feeling, the answering, burning heat of the mate bond. I knew this was my only chance to survive. My secret, the reason I couldn't speak, would either save me or condemn me. I had to trust the primal protective fury of the Alpha King. I closed my eyes and pushed the truth through the screaming connection between us. I am not just mute. I possess the echo voice. It is a dormant fey power, a magical ability to compel any wolf to obey. The North American Council of Alphas decreed it an abomination centuries ago, fearing its control. Anyone discovered to possess it is immediately executed, their pack dissolved and their bloodline wiped out. My mother hid me. She made me promise never to speak. Serafina, she suspects. She has been trying to force me to speak for years. The impact of this confession was seismic. I felt Darius's entire mind reel. The Alpha King, a man who answered to no one, was staring down the execution of his own mate, not by an enemy, but by the very council he helped rule. His fingers tightened on my ankle, a silent vow. The glacial blue of his eyes hardened into twin diamonds of lethal, protective resolve. "The council," he growled, the word tasting like ash. "They will not touch you, my Audrey. I swear it. I will burn this continent to the ground first." He slowly, painfully pulled himself up onto the cot beside me, his scent, sandalwood, steel, and now a deep, comforting earthiness enveloping me. He was weak, but his presence was a shield. His hand came up not to touch my face, but to gently cup the side of my head, pulling me against his powerful shoulder. It wasn't a passionate embrace. It was the absolute, total, possessive enclosure of a king protecting his threatened queen, a king who had just learned the devastating truth. He hadn't married a ghost. He had married a time bomb. And the only thing keeping the bomb from exploding was his absolute, undeniable protection. Serafina is involved. She arranged this. She knew the Fey root would activate the bond, and she hoped the forced activation would kill me, or that you would kill me in your primal state, leaving her to step in. I sent the thought a final necessary warning. He pulled back, his eyes flashing with a cold, terrifying vengeance. She will pay. But first we secure our borders. We secure you. My queen, for 7 years I failed you. That failure ends tonight. You will not be silent for much longer. We will fight the council. We will fight all of them. But we fight it as mates. He looked at my lips, then to my eyes. The cold Alpha King who thought me unworthy was gone. In his place was a damaged, fiercely protective Lycan who was ready to wage war on his entire kingdom for the silent queen who was anything but. I woke up curled against a wall of rock-hard muscle, an anchor of warmth and strength I never thought I'd feel. The antiseptic air of the bunker was still present, but it was heavily masked by the overwhelming, intoxicating scent of Darius. He was asleep, a heavy, deep slumber brought on by the antidote and the exhaustion of the forced Lycan shift. His breathing was even, his grip around me firm, and the subtle humming pulse of the mate bond was a steady, comforting rhythm in my chest. I shifted slightly, my mind immediately reaching out to check on him. Darius? Are you all right? His mental reply was instantaneous, though slow, like a thick wave breaking on the shore. Better. Exhausted. And furious. But better. Don't move, Audrey. Just exist here for a moment. I obeyed, allowing myself a terrifying moment of peace. The knowledge that he knew was a colossal, paralyzing relief. The mask of silence I had worn for so long was finally lifted, and I hadn't been condemned. I had been claimed. The cold, distant king was gone. The man beside me was a powerful, remorseful and fiercely possessive mate. But the danger hadn't evaporated. It had merely shifted. Serafina was still above, and the council was a looming, inescapable threat to my life. I gently pushed away from him, needing space to think. I didn't want him to interpret the move as rejection. It was necessary strategy. We have to move. The security breach is clear. Serafina knew your route. She knows you will be in a defensible remote location. She will be rallying her supporters and feeding a narrative to the council right now. That I bewitched you, that I used my supposed unworthy status as a trick to get close to the throne. Darius opened his eyes, the glacial blue sharp and alert, tracking my movements. The shame for his 7 years of rejection was still visible, a shadow beneath the fury. He sat up, his massive body tense. You are right. My initial impulse was to summon the guards loyal to me and have her seized, but that would only prove her point to the council, that you are manipulating me. He rose and began pulling on a discarded t-shirt. Even in a simple white tee, he looked like a god of war preparing for battle. We fight this their way. Subtlety. Publicly. We can't stay hidden. That will look like a confession of guilt. We return to the main house. We put on a show. A show. I asked silently. The mate bond, he explained, his eyes locking onto mine, is the most sacred thing in our society. The Lycan chose you. The drug forced the issue, but it can't invent a connection that isn't there. We use that. We display the bond. We show them that you are my undeniable queen, my other half, and that anyone who moves against you is moving against the king. He walked to a steel desk and pulled out a secure satellite phone. I need to contact my head of security, Marcus. He's a true blue loyalist, solid as granite. He will secure the house and our communications. As he spoke, he looked at me, a sudden, powerful possessiveness taking hold. He strode back to the cot and gently lifted my hand, turning it over to inspect my wrist. 7 years, he muttered, his thumb tracing the blue veins under my skin. 7 years I thought you were a child I was obligated to tolerate. I didn't see you. I didn't hear you. I apologize, Audrey. I apologize for every cold night, every disdainful glance, every moment of fear I caused you. Your apology is accepted, I thought, the words surprising me with their sincerity. The mate bond was demanding it, but a part of me, the part that had harbored a silent, secret crush on the powerful king, truly meant it. Now we play their game, he stated, his voice ringing with renewed authority. I need you to maintain your silence for now. We need to lull Serafina into a false sense of victory. I need her to believe that the forced mating merely secured your position, but not your influence. We will let her make her next move. The king's command. With a simple coded call to Marcus, the head of security, the bunker was opened. The transition from the cool silence of the bunker to the tense, hushed chaos of the main house was jarring. The entire King's Guard, all hand-picked alphas, stood rigidly at attention in the central hall. Their eyes, wide with confusion and barely concealed panic, were fixed on me, the silent queen who had vanished with their king during a chaotic, drugged episode. Seraphina was there, of course. She stood at the bottom of the grand staircase, looking impeccably composed in a black sheath dress, the picture of the grieving, concerned consort. Her eyes, however, were blazing with impotent rage and a desperate need to know what had transpired. Darius stopped at the top of the staircase, his arm coming around my waist, a subtle but utterly dominating gesture. The heat of his body was a clear statement to everyone present. He was claiming me. Publicly. Irrevocably. His voice, when he spoke, was a low, resonant baritone that commanded absolute silence. There has been an attempt on the life of your king. The queen and I discovered a potent fey poison in a glass of my intended wine. The perpetrator is known to me and they will be dealt with severely. He paused, letting the statement hang in the air like an executioner's axe. His eyes raked over the assembled guards, resting for a moment on Seraphina. Furthermore, he continued, his grip on my waist tightening, the shock of the poison activated the latent bond between my queen and me. It has been confirmed. Audrey is my true Lycan mate, a truth I failed to see for 7 long years. He looked down at me and his eyes softened just enough to make the act convincing, a look of profound adoration for his newly discovered mate. Then he lifted my hand and pressed his lips fiercely to the back of it, a clear, unmistakable gesture of fealty and love. The effect was exactly what he intended: shock, confusion, and a complete shattering of Seraphina's composure. Her beautiful face went slack, a tiny, involuntary whimper escaping her perfect lips. Her plan had backfired spectacularly. She had hoped the drug would either kill me or have him reject me violently. Instead, it had bonded us, and Darius was now using it as an absolute shield. Darius then focused solely on his head of security. Marcus. Lockdown. No one leaves. No communication goes in or out without my express approval. Anyone attempting to breach these orders is to be contained, and I mean contained. I want a full forensic sweep of the dining hall, specifically looking for fey root residue, and a full report on the movements of Seraphina and her staff over the past 3 days. Is that clear? Marcus snapped a salute. Crystal, my king. Consider it done. Seraphina found her voice, a perfect trembling instrument of feigned innocence. My king, this is outrageous. You are accusing an innocent. I was your partner for years. I am the one who was standing by you. Darius simply looked at her, his eyes devoid of any emotion. Your presence is no longer required in this house, Seraphina. You are to remain in your assigned guest wing under armed guard until I complete my investigation. Should you attempt to flee, I will interpret that as a confession of guilt and you will be dealt with as a traitor to the crown. The king had spoken. His authority was absolute. He turned, the powerful, immediate movement pulling me along with him. As we walked toward his private office, I looked back over his shoulder. Seraphina was being flanked by 2 massive guards, her face a mask of poisonous fury and utter defeat. She was contained but not defeated. Not yet. As the heavy oak door to his office swung shut behind us, he released a long, ragged sigh and finally let go of my waist. She's trapped, he said, walking to his expansive window and looking out over the manicured estate. But now the real work begins. She will not stop. And the council. The council will be watching and waiting for me to slip up, for the king to lose control to his bewitching mate. He turned back and his gaze was softer now, focused entirely on me. We need to plan, Audrey. I need to know your ability. How powerful is your echo voice? How do we use it without sacrificing you? I walked to his desk, took a leather-bound notepad and pen and quickly wrote. It is absolute. A single, direct command delivered with my full intent. Can compel any wolf, Alpha, Omega, or even Lycan, to obey me completely. But if I use it without protection, the council's censors will find me within a day. We must find a way to shield the voice. Darius read the note, a deep furrow in his brow. He didn't look scared, he looked calculating. Shield the voice, he repeated, the words a challenge. There is only one place I know of that could have a solution. The restricted royal library. A section only the king is allowed to access. It is an ancient, hidden vault of forbidden knowledge, detailing everything the council ever deemed heretical. We go there tonight. You and I, Audrey. The silent queen and her newly bonded king. We will find your defense. He walked around the desk, stopping directly in front of me, his massive hands resting lightly on my shoulders. It was a gesture of partnership, a silent declaration that he finally saw me as an equal. From this moment on, we are a single unit, he said, his voice quiet, sincere. The king and his queen. Tell me what you need and I will get it. Now show me the room. Where is this restricted royal library? I smiled, a small, genuine smile I hadn't allowed myself in 7 years. I picked up the pen and wrote the first instruction of my new life. The key is kept in your ancestral ring, king. You always wear it. The battle had just begun and the silent queen was finally ready to play. The air in the restricted royal library was thick and ancient, smelling of dust, dried parchment, and the heavy metallic tang of concentrated and used magic. The entrance had been hidden behind a false bookcase in Darius's study, accessible only by pressing the ancestral Lycan ring, a massive piece of black obsidian and silver, into a specific indentation. We descended a narrow spiral stone staircase into a circular chamber carved deep into the earth. Shelves lined the walls from floor to ceiling, filled with leather-bound tomes so old their titles were barely visible. This wasn't a collection for historical research. It was a vault for dangerous, forbidden knowledge, the kind the council had attempted to erase from history. Darius moved with a mixture of awe and grim purpose. This is it, Audrey. My father warned me never to enter here, saying that the knowledge contained within was too dangerous, too corrupting. But now it's the only place that might hold the secret to your survival. He lit a gas lamp on a central, heavy wooden table, casting flickering, dramatic shadows across the shelves. The golden light illuminated a single chilling sign carved above a doorway at the far end of the chamber. Heresies and the Condemned. I'll start searching the index for anything related to Fey abilities or power suppression, Darius stated, already moving to the nearest shelf. You, my queen, will search that far section. Focus on any terminology that relates to voice, compulsion, or shielding. But be careful. Some of these books are traps, cursed texts meant to harm or confuse. If a book feels wrong, don't touch it. Use the silver tongs. I nodded, the action still feeling like a substitute for my voice. The thought of speaking even now sent a sharp, painful sting of fear into my chest. The habit of 7 years was a relentless mental block. We worked in silence, the only sounds the rustle of old pages and the low, steady hum of the mate bond connecting us. That bond was a constant source of strange, dual emotion. It was overwhelming possessiveness, a primal declaration of mine, but also a powerful soul-deep understanding. I could feel his focused determination, his cold, lethal fury at the council's archaic rules, and the burning, intense shame for his past rejection of me. Do you feel it? I projected to him as I used the silver tongs to pull a brittle, dust-caked tome from the shelf. The shame? Yes. It's a weight. I thought I was protecting myself from an unworthy mate, when in reality, I was exposing my most worthy, most beautiful part to constant danger. It is a mistake I will never rectify, but I will spend the rest of my life proving my allegiance to you. His mental voice was a deep, sincere whisper that echoed in the silence of my mind. I moved on, pushing past the deep emotion to focus on the task. The section I was in was filled with terrifying texts, journals of condemned warlocks, treatises on forbidden blood rituals, and scrolls detailing ancient, unspeakable pacts. Finally, tucked between 2 massive stone tablets, I found a slender, jet-black book bound in a leather that felt disturbingly like human skin. I didn't need the tongs for this one. It radiated a cold, focused power that felt controlled, not wild. The title was etched in faint silver script, The Silencer's Veil, a study of vocal curses and magical dampening. My heart rate immediately spiked. I projected the image of the book to Darius. King, I think I found it. The Silencer's Veil. Darius immediately dropped the scroll he was examining and was at my side in 2 powerful strides. He examined the cover, his frown deepening. "This is Fey magic," he stated, his voice low. "The Fey are masters of concealment and deception. This book details ways to use your own power against you. A veil is a magical shield, but it usually requires a sacrifice or a ritual. Read the index. Quickly." Of all powerful species, we found the crucial chapter. Chapter 7, The Queen's Shroud, a durable self-imposed vocal seal. I placed the book on the table and together we began to turn the brittle, oddly cold pages. The text was in a high Fey dialect, but Darius, the king of the North American Alliance, was fluent in the languages of all powerful species. We found the crucial chapter. Chapter 7, The Queen's Shroud, a durable self-imposed vocal seal. Darius translated, reading slowly, his voice laced with tension. To shield a voice of compulsion, one must bind the power to an element of the self. The most durable, most undetectable shield is formed when the voice is bound to an unbroken vow of silence. The voice becomes magically inaccessible until the vow is formally and irrevocably broken. Once broken, the voice is free, and the magic is shielded by the vow's residual energy, making it invisible to all, including the Council's Fey censors, for a period of 1 lunar cycle. The drawback is that the breaking of the vow can only be successfully done while in the presence of an activated mate bond. I felt a cold shock run through me, followed by an agonizing wave of realization. My mother hadn't just made me promise not to speak. She had, without telling me, bound my power to an unbreakable magical vow of silence to protect me. My inability to speak was a magical shield, and the only way to release it safely was through the chaos of the forced bond activation. "Your mother was a genius," Darius breathed, looking at me with fresh awe. "She knew the Council would eventually track you. She protected you from yourself, and she built in the only failsafe that could save you. She knew you needed a true, powerful mate to survive the break." He paused, a triumphant yet still somber look on his face. "The vow is technically broken, Audrey. You spoke in your mind to me during the peak of the bond activation. The vow's residual energy is now your shield. For the next lunar cycle, about 28 days, your voice is safe. You can speak." He placed both hands on my shoulders, his gaze burning with a fierce, possessive joy. "You are free, my queen. Free to speak, free to defend yourself, free to stand beside your king. No more silence. No more fear." It was a profound moment. 7 years of terror, 7 years of silent submission were over. I could finally use my voice without the fear of immediate execution. I looked up at him, my heart full of a feeling too complex to be just relief. It was a dizzying mix of gratitude, love, and a dangerous, burgeoning power. I opened my mouth, a tiny sound escaping, a small, surprised gasp. I cleared my throat, the unused muscles trembling. Then, for the first time in 7 years, I spoke a complete, clear, powerful sentence, my voice low and husky from disuse, but resonating with the full force of my long-suppressed energy. "The vow is broken, King Darius. But the battle for the Council's approval is just beginning. Now let's go confront Seraphina. I want to hear her lies with my own ears." The sound of my voice had an instantaneous, electrifying effect on Darius. His eyes flashed pure gold, the Lycan rising in immediate, joyous response to the voice of its mate. He grinned, a rare, breathtakingly savage expression. "My queen," he rumbled, his voice dark with absolute pride and possession. "Your command is my pleasure." He extended his hand and I took it, my new voice and my new king, a lethal partnership ready to face the world. The atmosphere in the king's private study was charged with lethal stillness. The room, typically a place of strategy and quiet command, was now a makeshift interrogation chamber. Darius sat behind his large mahogany desk, a figure of imposing glacial calm. His eyes were locked on Seraphina, who was seated stiffly in an antique chair, flanked by 2 immense guards who looked ready to snap her neck at the king's slightest nod. I stood beside Darius, no longer in the shadows but in the light. The sight of me speaking to him earlier had stunned the guards, and their confusion only added to my own sense of new, terrifying power. I wasn't just standing there, I was standing as his mate, his equal, my silence permanently broken. Seraphina looked furious but maintained her facade of injured innocence. "This is an outrage, King Darius. I demand to know why I am being held. You have allowed this orphan to turn you against your most loyal ally." Darius didn't flinch. He simply steepled his fingers, his voice dangerously soft. Loyalty is a two-way street, Seraphina. You poisoned your king with the intention of either killing him or forcing him to commit murder. That is not loyalty. That is treason. I did no such thing, she hissed, her eyes darting to me with pure hatred. She is lying. She is manipulating you with a hidden power. She is not mute. She has been pretending to be silent for years, trying to discredit you. I stepped forward, and the sound of my heeled boot on the wooden floor was sharp in the silence. Seraphina's eyes snapped to mine, expecting the silent, demure wife. She froze when she heard my voice. I have been silent to survive you, Seraphina, I said, my voice low and steady, ringing with an authority I never knew I possessed. The fey magic, the echo voice, was still contained by the residual energy of the broken vow, but the mere act of speaking was an adrenaline rush. I have heard your whispers, I have felt your venom, and I have endured your daily attempts to provoke me into an action that would cost me my life. Seraphina recoiled, her composure finally shattering. You can talk. You witch. I knew it. You've bewitched him. You're breaking the council's law. You must be executed. Her voice rose into a hysterical shriek. I am under the king's protection, I countered, completely calm. And for the next 28 days, my voice is undetectable to the council's censors. Your accusation is baseless. Now, my king, let us cut to the heart of the matter. Who gave her the fey root? Seraphina does not have fey contacts strong enough for that grade of poison. Darius nodded, a flicker of appreciation in his eyes for my strategic thinking. He leaned forward. Answer the queen, Seraphina. Who is your accomplice? Was it a member of the council itself? Are you attempting a coup d'état? Seraphina bit her lip, her pride warring with her rising panic. She glanced at the door, then back at Darius, clearly searching for a weakness. She found none. The Alpha King was a stone wall of judgment. You won't believe me, she spat out. It was Elias, your own uncle, the council elder. The name hit the room like a physical blow. Elias, Darius's own blood, a highly respected and powerful council elder, was the traitorous uncle from the variable set, a key antagonist. Darius remained outwardly unmoved, but I felt a spike of intense betrayal and fury through the mate bond. His uncle had been his most trusted advisor for years. Explain, Darius commanded, his voice now a dangerous growl. Elias wanted your throne, Seraphina confessed, her voice thick with defeat. He said you were too complacent, too concerned with peace treaties. He approached me a month ago. He knew about Audrey's past. He knew her mother had possessed the echo voice before her execution. He suspected Audrey had it too, based on her extreme silence. He planned to use the fey root to force the Lycan shift, hoping your primal state would expose her secret, or that your Lycan would reject her and kill her instantly. He promised me the position of queen once you were deposed, and he was declared regent. She looked up at Darius, a desperate plea in her eyes. I didn't want to kill you, Darius. I just wanted my rightful place. Darius stood up, his massive frame completely eclipsing the light from the window. Your rightful place was a lie. Elias lied to you. He would have murdered you both to clear the bloodline. Your greed has bought you nothing but a swift, brutal end. He turned his head slightly to address his head of security, Marcus, who had been standing silent guard. Marcus, detail a squadron. Find Elder Elias. Bring him here. I don't care how you do it, but I want him alive. And I want him here by dawn. Yes, my king. Marcus answered, snapping a salute and immediately moving toward the door. Darius then turned to Seraphina. You are stripped of your title, your wealth, and your protection. You will remain under lock and key until my uncle has been secured. Then we will have a council trial. You will be my star witness. Seraphina's defiance was completely gone. She slumped in the chair, a beautiful, defeated viper. I looked at the king, the man who had ignored me for 7 years, and felt a surge of pride. He was ruthless, decisive, and fully committed to protecting me. Thank you, king, I thought, a simple, heartfelt message of gratitude. He looked at me, a rare, powerful warmth in his glacial blue eyes. He didn't need to answer with his mind. His actions spoke volumes. He walked around the desk, stopping right in front of me. He reached out and gently cupped my jaw, his thumb brushing my bottom lip. He was asking permission. I gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. He closed the distance, his mouth finding mine in a kiss that was the absolute antithesis of the cold 7 years. It was intense, possessive, a deep, powerful declaration of the mate bond that was still screaming between us. It wasn't just desire. It was a promise, a claim, and a profound apology. It was the kiss of a man who realized he had almost lost his soul, and had fought his way back to it. When he pulled back, his voice was a husky growl of absolute possession. "Audrey. My queen. You are perfect. Now let's talk strategy. If Elias is truly involved, the council will move fast to cover their tracks. We need to secure proof and a powerful public defense before dawn. We need the truth to be our shield, King," I said, my voice now strong and steady. "And I know where to find it. Back to the restricted library." I saw a ledger in the Fey section. A ledger detailing the financial backers of Elder Elias. Darius grinned, a dark, lethal glint in his eyes. "My clever queen. Let's go uncover a conspiracy." The king and his now-speaking queen exited the study, leaving the disgraced plotter alone in the custody of the guards. The game was escalating, and with every passing minute, the high stakes of execution and banishment were closing in. The hunt for evidence was a feverish, silent sprint against the rising sun. Darius and I were back in the dust-filled vault of the restricted royal library, two shadows moving with a shared, desperate urgency. My ability to speak was an incredible relief, allowing us to communicate quickly and verbally, but the mate bond ensured our thoughts remained a constant strategic sync. "The ledger must be here, Audrey." Elias was meticulous. He would never trust a digital record for treasonous financing. Darius projected, his strong hands moving volumes on the shelf dedicated to ancient pack alliances. I moved to the Fey section, recalling the shelf where I'd first found the Silencer's Veil. My eyes scanned the titles until I found it. A small, plain-looking ledger bound in gray cloth with no title. It looked mundane, but my gut, and the subtle, buzzing anxiety radiating off the page through the mate bond, told me it was the key. "King," I said, my voice still a little hoarse but clear. "This one. It's too plain. Too hidden." Darius was instantly by my side. He took the book and flipped it open. Inside, written in Elias's distinctive, precise script, were detailed financial transactions labeled with coded references. Darius, an expert in the king's own accounting, immediately broke the code. "It's a shadow network," he hissed, his face hardening with cold fury. "Payments to rogue Fey mercenaries, large transfers to several key members of the North American Council, disguised as discretionary funding." He wasn't just after my throne, Audrey. He was buying enough loyalty and fear to dismantle the entire alliance. He planned to execute me, execute you, and then declare himself king regent for a council coup. The truth was worse than we had imagined. The traitorous uncle was planning nothing short of a continent-wide takeover. The price for our failure wasn't just our lives. It was the entire stability of the United States wolf packs. "We need a safe public platform, Darius. If we go to the council privately, they will call it a witch hunt, a move by a king manipulated by his bewitching queen. They will destroy the evidence and discredit us before the sun sets." I sent the thought, my mind racing ahead. Darius nodded, closing the ledger with a decisive snap. "The annual council summit. It's in 48 hours. Every alpha in the alliance, every council elder and international observers will be there. It's the only stage grand enough to reveal a conspiracy of this scale." 48 hours isn't enough time to find Elias and prepare a defense," I countered, running a hand through my hair in frustration. "And Serafina is a loose end. She could send a coded message to Elias right now warning him." "Serafina is secure, but you're right. Elias will have contingency plans," Darius mused, his mind cycling through strategic options. "We need to ensure he can't flee and that we can't be forced to flee. We need leverage." He looked at me, a dangerous, calculated gleam in his eyes. "We use your voice, Audrey. Not to command but to secure our defense. The council guards on the estate are a mix of loyalists and Elias's bought men. If we try to move, the bought men will stop us." The king's gambit. We left the library and returned to the king's office. Darius immediately sent a coded message to Marcus, his head of security, and another to his most trusted financial advisor, a brilliant older woman named Dr. Vivian Hale. A tense hour passed. The sky outside the window was beginning to lighten, the blue hour before sunrise. Marcus appeared first, his face grim. "Alpha King, the perimeter has been compromised. The men sent to retrieve Elder Elias. They haven't reported back. I believe they have been ambushed. And several of the guards on your internal security detail are unwilling to follow my orders." "Traitors," Darius confirmed, his voice cold and devoid of surprise. "Exactly as I suspected. Thank you, Marcus. Now leave us. I need to speak to my queen privately." Marcus hesitated, clearly worried for his king, but he bowed and exited. Darius walked over to me, taking my hands in his. "It's time, Audrey. We have 36 hours until the summit. We need absolute loyalty from the guards who remain. If we are forced to fight our way to that summit, we need a path cleared." I understood immediately. My echo voice was the key. The shield of the vow's energy was active, and the only way to protect ourselves from the rising threat was to use the very power that condemned me. "Tell me the command, King," I said, my voice steady. He looked into my eyes, and the possessive intensity of the mate bond was almost painful in its strength. "The command is simple, my queen. You will use your voice on the remaining guards. You will compel them to obey you, and you will command them to ignore any instruction from the council or Elder Elias. You will make them my unbreakable shield until the summit is over." He led me out of his office and down to the main internal security room, where a dozen loyal and suspected guards stood on alert, their faces a mix of worry and defiance. Darius stood before them, his presence an absolute dominating force. "You have all sworn an oath to the king and queen of the alliance. That oath is now being tested. There are traitors in our ranks. I have given you orders, and some of you have refused them." He stepped aside, placing me front and center. My queen is not silent. She has held her tongue to protect herself from the enemies that sought to use her. But now that silence is over. Now her power is our shield. I looked at the 12 men. They were tough, battle-hardened wolves. Some of them looked like they wanted to bolt, others were rigid with fear. I took a deep breath, concentrating all my emotion, my fear, my fury, my love for Darius, my commitment to the alliance, and funneled it into the deepest part of my throat. I spoke a single sentence, my voice no longer husky, but a clear, melodic instrument that resonated with an unnatural, pure, compelling force. "You will protect your king and queen. You will obey my every command. You will not allow any council elder or outside force to enter this house. You are our unbreakable shield." The effect was instantaneous and shocking. All 12 men went rigid, a silent, visible shiver running down their spines. Their eyes, previously questioning and fearful, snapped into absolute, unblinking focus. They weren't mind-controlled zombies, but their deepest sense of pack loyalty and obedience had been compelled to one singular focus: my command. "We obey, my queen," they chorused, their voices a deep, resonant declaration of absolute loyalty. I felt a dizzying wash of exhaustion, but also a terrifying, exhilarating rush of power. The echo voice was formidable. Darius stepped to my side and wrapped an arm around my waist, pulling me close. "It's done. You have secured our borders. We are safe for now." Just then the coded phone rang. It was Dr. Vivian Hale, the financial advisor. Darius put it on speaker. "Alpha King, I have bad news. The Council's security force, the ones not affiliated with Elias, have just issued a public arrest warrant. They are charging you with conspiracy to commit treason and the manipulation of council elders. They are using Seraphina's confession against you, claiming she was coerced. They are moving to seize the estate and bring you in for an immediate non-public trial. The council was moving to take us out before the summit. The price, execution, was now an immediate threat." Darius's face was a study in cold, lethal resolve. "My shield is in place, Doctor. They will not breach this house. Contact the international press. Leak the information you have. Tell them the King of the North American Alliance is being threatened by a conspiracy within his own council. Get their attention. We will force a public debate." He ended the call and looked down at me, his eyes burning with the Lycan's desperate love and his king's fierce determination. "They want a war, Audrey. We will give them one. We will fight to the summit. And then, my queen, we will tell the world the truth. He lifted me into his arms, a decisive move. Rest. We stand together tomorrow. And we will not fall. The next day was a grueling blur of strategic waiting and tense anticipation. The estate was a fortress. The guards, under the absolute unbreakable compulsion of my echo voice, were an impenetrable shield. Every attempt by the council's main security force to breach the property was met with unshakable resistance. We were under a full violent siege, but we were secure. Inside, Darius and I finalized our defense. The mate bond was a lifeline, allowing us to communicate without speaking, coordinating every move, every counterargument, and every fear. The constant, soul-deep connection was cementing the relationship that 7 years of coldness had denied us. The distance was gone, replaced by a fierce, mutual respect and a blazing, unyielding love. The most crucial moment arrived at the pre-dawn hours of the summit. "We have to move now," Darius stated, his voice low and urgent, dressed in his most formal king's attire, a black uniform with silver braiding that only enhanced his formidable presence. "The council is desperate. They're about to try a final massive breach. We have to be on that stage before they can stop us." We moved through the dark, silent house, flanked by the 12 compelled guards. The only way out was a secure, pre-planned tunnel that led to a neutral airport where a loyal military jet was waiting. Just as we reached the tunnel entrance, a voice rang out, a final, desperate move. "Stop right there, King Darius. I will not allow you to escape justice." Elder Elias, Darius's uncle, was standing at the end of the hall, not in formal council robes, but in travel-ready gear, looking pale and furious. He had obviously realized the game was over and was attempting to flee through a different route. He was flanked by 3 remaining loyal assassins, one holding a specialized face-steel knife. "Elias," Darius growled, taking a protective half-step in front of me. "It's over. We have the ledger. We have Seraphina's confession. The world is watching." Elias sneered. "They are watching a king who has been bewitched by a rogue sorceress. You are making a fool of yourself. Kill them." The assassins moved with lethal speed. The compelled guards reacted instantly, forming a solid, defensive wall. The air was filled with the sounds of snarling wolves and crashing bodies. In the chaos, Elias broke free, lunging for the tunnel entrance. This was his last chance. Darius stepped into the fray, a magnificent, terrifying flash of Lycan power. He was not going to let his uncle escape. He tackled Elias to the ground, a guttural, furious roar tearing from his throat. I knew this was my moment. The echo voice was the key to securing the evidence. I pushed my way past the fighting guards and stood over the struggling men. "The ledger," I commanded, my voice resonating with power, the shield of the vow's energy humming violently around me. "Elias, by the power of the echo voice, I command you, admit your guilt. Confess to the conspiracy." The effect was devastating. Elias's body went rigid. He screamed, a genuine, anguished sound as the compulsion wrestled with his will. But the echo voice, bound by Fey power, was absolute. He released a single, tortured confession, a phrase that would doom him forever. "I did it. I tried to depose the king and queen. I planned to rule the alliance." I felt the immense drain of using the power, but it was done. The confession, though coerced, was out. Darius, stunned by the confession he'd just heard, immediately knocked Elias unconscious. "We are out of time," he roared to the guards. "Take the prisoner. We are going to the summit." The king and queen's trial. The grand hall of the annual council summit was a cauldron of nervous energy. The news of the siege, the public warrants, and the king's refusal to surrender had turned a routine meeting into a high-stakes emergency trial. Darius and I strode onto the massive stage, a figure of absolute authority and cold resolve. The elders of the council, some allies, some bought, looked terrified. Darius wasted no time. He had a battered Elias and a tightly controlled Seraphina dragged onto the stage. "Elders," Darius's voice thundered, filling the vast hall. "You were told I was a traitor. You were told I was bewitched. I am here to expose the true traitor to the alliance, Elder Elias, and his accomplice, Seraphina, who poisoned your king in a failed coup d'etat." He presented the ledger, the Feyroot residue reports, and then he took my hand. "And now for my final witness. The queen you condemned. The queen who, for 7 years, I was foolish enough to ignore. He looked at me, his eyes full of love and pride. He was giving me the floor, giving me the freedom I had been granted. I stepped forward and spoke, my voice strong and clear, delivering the ultimate defense. I narrated my mother's sacrifice, the magical vow of silence, the council's archaic law, and how the poison intended to destroy me had instead activated and shielded my power, making me the ultimate witness to the truth. I ended with a clear declaration. Elder Elias confessed to his conspiracy minutes ago. You heard him. And now I issue one final command to the council itself. I looked out at the assembled elders, concentrating the full, controlled force of my shielded voice. You will vote now. You will vote to nullify the archaic echo voice law, and you will vote to condemn Elias and Seraphina for treason. The air in the hall warped with the force of my power. The compulsion was subtle but absolute. The elders' faces were strained with the internal conflict, but one by one their hands rose. The council voted unanimously to nullify the law and condemn the traitors. The king and queen were victorious. 3 months have passed since the summit. Darius and I now rule the alliance's true equals. Elias and Seraphina were stripped of their titles and banished to a remote, inescapable prison colony. The council was purged of all conspirators. The alliance is stronger, and the archaic law that once hung over my head is gone forever. I stood on the balcony of our shared bedroom, watching the sun set over the vast estate. I was not silent anymore. My voice was a daily comfort to my king, a weapon when needed and a symbol of our victory. Darius came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist, his familiar, comforting scent surrounding me. He nuzzled his head into my neck. "What are you thinking about, my queen?" he murmured, his voice heavy with affection. I leaned back into him, completely at peace. I was thinking about how much I love the sound of my own voice. And how much I love the sound of yours when you say my name. He turned me around and looked into my eyes. The glacial blue melted into a warm, fierce love. "I will never stop saying your name, Audrey. I wasted 7 years in cold, stupid silence. I will spend the rest of our lives making up for it." He didn't just see a silent, unworthy consort anymore. He saw his equal. He saw the fire. He saw his queen. He lowered his head and kissed me, a long, deep and sincere claim of forever. The mate bond was no longer a forced, painful eruption. It was a warm, powerful river that ran between our souls, carrying the truth of our love. My hand automatically went to my stomach, a secret smile touching my lips. I didn't need to speak the news. He already knew. The bond carried the joyful truth that my formerly barren life was about to become full. The king, who never touched his queen for 7 years, was about to become a father. He pulled back, his eyes widening with shared wonder and absolute elation. "A queen and a prince," he whispered, kissing my forehead. "Our perfect ending." We stood there, watching the sun disappear, 2 souls irrevocably bound, ready to rule their kingdom with a new, powerful voice. What a ride. I hope you enjoyed the Alpha King never touched her for 7 years. Until he was drugged and the bond activated. I'd love to know what part of the story you found most intriguing. Was it the shocking moment at the beginning when Darius was drugged and the mate bond activated? Or perhaps when Audrey finally broke her vow and used her powerful echo voice on the council? Let me know in the comments. If you loved this story, please be sure to like and subscribe. Your subscription is a support from you, and it means the world to me as my channel is still young and trying to grow. I can't wait to see you in the next interesting story.